Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. For today's video, I thought I would do something that I surprisingly have never done in the almost 5-year history of my YouTube presence, namely review the movie adaptation of a book that I have just covered on my main channel. And the movie in question is ist wieder da. Produced by Lars Dietrich and Christoph Müller, the movie has been directed by David Vnent, as well as co-written by him alongside Mitzi Meyer and Johannes Boss. It was also, so the production companies involved were, if I'm not mistaken, Konstantin Films and Mythos Films, and I'm pretty sure one or both of them also did handle the distribution. I may be mistaken, but that's beside the point. This is these are the broad strokes at point here. As I've already mentioned, this movie is based upon a book. However, I have to say that after having both read the book and seen the movie, I think some of the changes, I think some of the changes that were made to the story of the book were a little bit, were a little bit beyond what would have been, not just a little bit, or quite a bit beyond what would have been necessary to really convey this, book to the silver screen. And I can't help but wonder which of the screenwriters was responsible for, which change. Given that, by the end, there are some changes that simply do not work. Before I get too deeply into that, however, I should first give you the summary of my impressions. So yeah, my review summary is the best parts of this movie are the ones that are the ones that most effectively emulate the equivalent parts, the equivalent parts from the book. The ones that most effectively follow the meaning and intention behind behind the book itself. Unfortunately, it starts to drift away from that, even in the early parts of the film, and by the end of it, it is perhaps not completely unrecognizable, but the resulting changes are are stray quite far from what the story of the book was really supposed to be. Still, it is a very competently made piece of cinematic artistry. So if you're on the lookout for a glossy presentation of a fish out of water tale, combined with a little bit of a something with a somewhat of a social tragedy, then it is quite likely you will enjoy this movie. And now that I'm done with the general aspects, it's time I delved into some specifics. The plot of this movie follows the plot of the book more than it doesn't, in all fairness. However, there are two major alterations that very much shift the course of this movie, as well as its message, even when compared to the book. The first of these is actually the movie's second act, which second of five, if we were to go down that route, and to be fair, the events that happened in that part of the movie do happen in the book, but later on in the story and in a different format. And the second part that that really adds some changes is more or less the last third of the movie, which while it could be said to be based on on what has been described in the book, still very much takes a completely different turn and a completely different approach to how the narrative is presented. Now, one could argue that the movie's ending is the logical conclusion to the book's ending. However, in presenting the however in presenting the uh, in presenting this ending, the movie very much changes the changes the scope and the overall message of the story. Aside from taking a side character from the book and making him the movie's secret tragic hero, uh, this the movie's ending also changes the character of the narrative as a whole from a as a whole, and alters its message from German society is particularly susceptible to a certain kind of messaging and rhetoric, to demagogues will always use resentment and pretty words to get themselves ahead, which is the most generic, boring cookie cutter premise that this cookie cutter premise or political statement that cinema can really make. And I think I know why they did it, but still I have to comment on how bad it is. And the reason they did it is because uh, uh, the reason they did it is a little bit more multifaceted, if I'm to be perfectly honest, because in between it was quite obvious that this that the book was a huge success, and was bound to receive a movie adaptation within the within the near future. Strike the iron while it's hot. I lived in Germany at the time the book came out, and I remember that the hype was real. Let's just put it that way. However, however, in between the book's release and the movie's release, the Syrian migrant crisis occurred, and that caused a sizable paradigm shift within society as a whole. And and I think that placed the filmmakers at somewhat of a crossroads. Do they keep they set the movie in the book's present in order to keep its messaging intact, or do they have it take place in the movie's present in order to make it topical? And they decided to move it to the and they decided to take it to their to the movie's present. And while there is only a 3-year difference between between these time points, those 3 years have been enough to change the have been enough to convince the movie makers to change the story from a cautionary satire to a be careful what you wish for tragedy. And that ultimately also affects a lot of the things about the tone of it as well, because the book has been quite adept at balancing its darkness with its comedy aspects, whereas this movie doesn't even try. It goes for comedy in the first half, and then straight into darkness with the in the second. And yeah, I have to say that makes viewing this movie less interesting than reading the book. All in all, if anything, the adaptation of this book should have followed the path laid out by A Clockwork Orange. The movie should have followed the events of the book within like an 80 or 90%. So at least 80 or 90% of what happens in the book should also happen in the movie, and in that same order. Do not shy away from anything that makes from the aspects of the villain protagonist that make him both menacing and cool, but also showcase a little bit of edge that demonstrates what goes on behind the veil, so to speak. Unfortunately, David Nent is no Stanley Kubrick, so that's not the adaptation we got. There are other changes that are made to the book story. Most of them are smaller and made to streamline the presentation of the narrative, and those I am for the most part fine with. And in fact, when looking at the movie in terms of the cinematic artistry, I think it is pretty safe to say that the worst I can say about those aspects is that they are fine. The casting is for the most part on point. Every performance within this movie is is also fit for purpose. You see these characters as who they are, as who they are supposed to be. The set dressing and set design, whenever they are needed, do a good job at elevating or at presenting themselves as authentically as possible, even though they are for detours from the book. However, what I think really helps make this movie shine is the editing and the cinematography, which fall under the purview of Andreas Podraške and Hanno Lenz, respectively, both of which do a great job at showcasing the perspective that the that the main character embodies, and how it is that he views and processes the world. And these two people are can very effectively convey that perspective to to the audience. So yeah, great job there. Overall, while this movie is for the most part technically and is competently done from a technical and acting perspective, the actual connective tissue holding these things together, its main narrative, unfortunately isn't really strong enough to hold all of these aspects together, making the movie fall apart. My final rating for Eris Vida, the movie, is a 3 out of 5. And that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the movie itself or to my review of it, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. As I've already mentioned, I have a main channel where I mainly talk about books or other aspects of the printed word medium. And in fact, just before releasing this video, the review of the book the movie is based on should be out. So if you want to look at those, go ahead and check it out. If, however, you find yourself to be less than interested in my thoughts on the printed word medium, then I suggest you stay on this channel and go through my extensive backlog covering pretty much every topic I can think of. It could be politics, movies, gameplay, or whatever else comes to mind. If none of those interest you, then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it for me. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.